I freaking hate my life. I just feel down and depressed, and my knees hurt, and everything isn't going well for me. And I just feel like I just want to just end it all and stuff. Am I allowed to do that? I don't think that's a very nice way of seeing the world. I believe you can simply just kind of improve your life and kind of tackle the problems you're facing. I don't believe you need to kind of consider suicide. That's very edgy and emo. I keep getting into like these, massive like periods of depression and stuff. I cannot handle it anymore. My knees hurt. I feel like I should just end it all. I just feel not really good right now. I just don't know what to do. You can always call the hotline, the suicide hotline. or maybe, I don't know if that's the right term. You could call someone to talk about your suicidal depression. Maybe they could just, I don't know, explain to you why you shouldn't really just kill yourself as right now. People, they just don't understand me. I can't be bothered to talk to other people on the phone. Why would I talk to someone that I don't even know in real life? It's so ridiculous. How is that person going to relate to what I'm experiencing? But you can still call people. There's such a thing. You can go, if you type suicide into Google, you can find this, like, there's always this, like, number, suicide hotline network number that they give you, and so you can talk to someone on the phone. That might solve your problems. I was talking to someone on the phone going to solve my problems. I'm miserable. The other person's just going to give me a bunch of nonsense advice, and I can't take that on. He's probably not even going to be able to relate to what I'm going through. I don't know then. I just think maybe you should just chill out and play video games. I can't continue living like this. I'm just miserable all the time. I don't feel happy, don't feel content. I just feel very down and depressed. I just feel like ending it all. Surely you can improve your life and get out of this pit of depression, right? Or you can get therapy. How is all of that? How is therapy going to help? I'm trying so hard to climb out of this pit of depression, but it's very difficult, man. My knees hurt. I'm miserable and depressed, and I can't take it anymore. I just want to end it. But you can talk to someone on the phone, and they'll help you out. And they'll kind of treat your suicidal depression, or you can take antidepressant pills. That wouldn't that just be making me worse in the long run? I just feel like ending it all right now. Give me one good reason not to end myself right now. I mean, life is like it's like a roller coaster ride. You're gonna have ups and downs and stuff like this, but you'll feel better in the end, I guess. Who knows? There's a lot of things to look forward to in life. You don't need to just end it right now. What am I supposed to be looking forward to? I'm just gonna become old and weak and miserable anyway again. That is true. Maybe it's something you need to kind of consider on your own. Then I guess I can't really help you. If you're really suicidal, you should just end yourself. Then I guess, I don't know. I'm gonna do it. Maybe later on. Thank you, Big Sonic, for your support, your emotional support. No problem, Small Sonic. Is suicide bad? This is a very, very, very controversial topic. Very controversial topic. If I don't say the right, if I'm not very careful, and if I don't say the right things, this video might be getting taken down. You know what I mean? This is how controversial this topic is. Is suicide bad? Very, very controversial, and I'm not gonna sugarcoat anything. I'm gonna give you my very edgy, very edgy kind of edgy advice on this. Well, what do I mean by edgy? I mean, it's not going to be like, suicide is bad. You should just get emotional. So I'm not going to be talking like that. I'm going to give you like a very edgy, very edgy, kind of almost, I don't know, very edge, like a literal edge. Like it's going to be that's how it's gonna be like a blade's edge, you know what I mean? A knife's edge. I'm just gonna give you my raw, like, kind of opinions on this. I'm not gonna filter anything out. Is suicide bad? Again, very, 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 very controversial topic, and if I'm not very careful, this video might be getting taken down. So, all right, first of all, is suicide bad? Obviously, it's a very subjective question. Very subjective question. Is suicide bad? Obviously, there's no right answer to this because it's a subjective question, and it depends on the individual's interpretation and ideas and beliefs. But let's just say there's a guy. There's this guy. he has like the typical life, whatever, right? You know what I mean? He's got a typical life. You know, he does the typical things, right? You know, he has like some sort of job occupation that he goes to and stuff, and then he comes back home, and then he just, you know, he does his typical things. He goes to the shop to buy food and other stuff like that he needs to stay alive, and then he comes back home. Maybe he has a family, a wife and children, blah blah blah, and he has like a very typical life. You know what I mean? But, you know, this guy, you know, he's starting. He just feels like life is just not adequate now. He feels like life is just kind of he doesn't feel fulfilled. You know what I mean? He doesn't feel joyful no more. He's constantly, all he does is like kind of, you know, he does the typical things that most people do, right? He works, earns money, buys the stuff he needs, and then he just kind of, I don't know, I guess goes to sleep or does other things in his house, you know, the typical things that most people do. But this, you know, this guy is very miserable, and he's starting to experience like a very strong form of depression. He doesn't feel happy at all. He doesn't feel any joy anymore and stuff like that, you know. Actually, in fact, he's only experiencing depression and misery now and stuff. You know, he's suffering from some medical problems. You know what I mean? Medical problems that can't be treated. You know what I mean? Is, you know, suicide in this guy's case bad? Would and you know, this guy that I'm kind of in this hypothetical example I'm using, right? He has a very typical life, but he's starting to experience massive amounts of depression and pain and suffering and stuff, and he's developing a variety of different medical problems that can't be treated and stuff. And this guy, you know, he's got like a little jump rope that his kids use, maybe. I don't know. There's kids used to like do like jumping jacks. Or maybe not jumping. I'm being kind of dumb. What do they call it when you jump on a rope? Like jump over a rope? I literally forgot. Like this basic thing. I don't know. His kids. They have like a jump rope that they used to. You know what I mean when you're jumping. Like in the, like in the movies, there's a little girl and she has like a jump rope and she's jumping. I forgot what that is. I'm being kind of very dumb right now. I can't believe I forgot what that is. Anyway, this guy in this hypothetical example, right? He sees his kids jump rope and stuff, and he just wants to kind of, you know, tie a noose and, you know, just end it all. Is that bad? Obviously, again, you know, this goes back to the original question: is suicide bad? You know, if you're like, let's just say this hypothetical guy says, you know, his life, he just doesn't see the value in it anymore. He just feels constantly joyless, depressed, miserable. Is suicide in this guy's case bad? Obviously, there's no right answer. Obviously, a lot of you would say, well, you can just cheer up. You can just go, I don't know, do things to cheer him up. You could just go buy a bottle of alcohol and just get drunk all the time. I don't know. You could kind of numb the pain by doing that. You could just go to the shop and buy like a bottle of alcohol and just drink that, and you'll just cheer himself up. You can just, there's different ways to cheer yourself up. Cheer yourself up. That's what a lot of people, they give you this type of advice. Just cheer yourself up. Go and drink get a bottle of alcohol and cheer yourself up. Obviously, let's just say this guy, he does that and it still doesn't work. He still feels miserable and depressed. And he sees his kids jump rope and he just wants to tie a noose and hang himself. Is that bad? Is that not good on his part? Obviously, it's a subjective question. Obviously, there's no right answers to this. A lot of you guys would just say, oh, he can just cheer up. He can just go and buy a bottle of alcohol and just drink and just poison his liver and stuff. Yeah, that's what, I'm not even kidding. That's what a lot of people are like this. They could just say, they'll just tell you, oh, you can just cheer up. You just go to the shop and buy like a large bottle of alcohol and drink it, and your depression and misery would fade. So you're just being a little B word. I can't believe you're being a little B word. You can just cheer up and stuff. No, but you know, this guy, his life is miserable. He's depressed. He sees his kids jump rope. He just wants to tie a noose and hang himself. Is that bad? Again, is suicide bad? There's no right answer to this, and a lot of you have your own subjective opinions. But I mean, in my opinion, if someone does not see the value in living anymore, I don't believe that is necessary, and he wants to end his life, I don't believe that's bad. Obviously, that's my opinion, though. I'm using this typical, the guy with a typical life. Let's just say if you're born in like a very third world country, right? Which is far worse than this. Far worse than this example. Like, let's just say you're a guy born in like a very impoverished slum somewhere in India or Africa and stuff. Your opportunities aren't there. You don't have really any real opportunities and stuff. You don't really have anything to strive for and stuff. Your life is always going to be bad, and you're always going to be experiencing hardships and difficulties, and that's just because of where you were born. It's not even in your control. You know, this is actually a lot more serious than the, you know, because I'm in the other hypothetical example I used. This guy had just a typical life. He was probably, you know, he just had a typical life. He was a typical person from a Western country. Like, let's use like the example of someone from a third world country, right? Someone from either born in a slum in either India or Africa. You know, this person that's born in either India or Africa, you know, their prospects are going to be very slim and dim. They're not going to have a lot of hope. You know, let's just say these hypothetical people born in India and Africa or somewhere else, in some other slum in some other underdeveloped part of the world. You know, suicide, is it bad in their case? Right? Let's just say that they have no hope whatsoever. These people are hopeless. They cannot escape poverty at all. Their lives are just going to be revolving around crime and other like varieties of hardships and difficulties and tribulations and problems. Is suicide bad in their case? A lot of you say, well, they can just work very hard and earn money and climb out of poverty and stuff and I don't know, migrate to somewhere else or something like this and blah blah blah. It's like they don't need to kill themselves. Like, why are you being edgy? I mean, let's just say this is not a possibility. They just cannot climb out of like their pit of poverty. You know what I mean? They're stuck the way they are in their slums. You know, suicide bad in their case. Obviously, our viewer gonna just get at me and say, well, no, they can just do things to improve their condition and climb out. Suicide's never an option. You know. But let's just say these people are completely hopeless. They're born in like some third world country and stuff, in slums somewhere in some underdeveloped part of the world. Is it hopeless? And then they're completely hopeless. They don't have any. There's no way they can escape their miserable existence. Is suicide bad? A lot of you would say, no, they can cheer up and stuff, and they can just try very hard. I'm gonna give you my very raw opinion on this. I believe that in this case, that suicide is not bad. I believe that suicide is not necessarily bad. I believe that if you don't see the value in living, right, so to speak, you should have like the right to end your life. That's my opinion on this. A lot of people will disagree and stuff, and they'll have like all of these emotional arguments that they'll throw at me. But you know, if someone's really miserable and he's not having any he's not seeing any sort of value in living, why shouldn't he end his life? And of course, morality. And so they would always like use a lot of different moral arguments against this. But you know, morality is like, it's not very concrete. It's kind of subjective and stuff. It's not something that we could even argue about in a very reasonable way, because you know, morals is kind of all, it's imaginary basically. There's no yardstick to define morality in real life. It's all in the head of the person that's kind of, I don't know, thinking about it. You know, morals are subjective and stuff. It's not so. The moral arguments are kind of there. You can't really use any moral arguments against what I'm saying, right? Because it's all subjective. And you know, again, is suicide bad? It's a very subjective question. In my opinion, I don't believe it's bad. I believe that someone does not have any type of desire to live. Basically, he should just kind of, it's of his own free will to kind of end his life. You know, that's my opinion on this. And a lot of you guys are probably gonna be very hateful about this towards me and stuff. But you know, that's my opinion. If someone does not see the value in living, basically, if someone hates their life and they want to end it, you know, they should do that. And stuff. That's of their own free will. That's their choice. A lot of you are gonna be very hateful. A lot of you are gonna be very hateful towards me and stuff. But you know, suicide. Let's say, you know, there's these hypothetical people, they're born in slums in some third world countries, some underdeveloped parts of the world and stuff, and they're miserable and depressed, you know, in their case, right? You know, and there is no hope or anything like that. They cannot climb out of their pits of depression and misery and poverty. You know, a lot of you would say, oh no, suicide's not, it's never an option. They can always, you know, they can we can help them out and stuff and help them get out of that pit of depression, misery and poverty. You know, that's, you know, okay, oh, they can just try very hard. A lot of you would have like a lot of different arguments and explanations. I can't really be asked, can't really be bothered to kind of articulate against them. You know, but is suicide bad? Obviously, it's a subjective question. Obviously, there's no right answer, and obviously, this is a very controversial, emotional topic. So obviously, a lot of you are going to be kind of a little bit on the edge when I'm discussing these things. You know, is suicide bad? Obviously, there's no right answer, and obviously, it's all subjective. So I don't know. Is suicide bad? You know, I'm going to use more hypothetical examples. You know, to go back to that other guy that I was talking about. You know, this hypothetical guy that has a typical life. He works, he has a family and stuff. He earns money and he goes to the shops to buy stuff that he needs, and he goes back home and then he just chills out and stuff. You know, and goes to sleep. I don't know, afterwards. You know, blah 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 blah. This guy, he's starting to hate his life. He doesn't see the value in living anymore. He sees his kids jump rope. He wants to tie a noose and he wants to end it all. Is that bad? Is that bad? Is that wrong of him to do that? And of course, this is subjective. There's no clear answers to any of this. You know what I mean? there's no clear answers. Is that bad that he sees his kid's jump rope and he just wants to end his life? Is that really bad? A lot of you are going to kind of say, yes, it is bad. Suicide's never an option. I don't know about that. You can just cheer up, you can just go to the shop and buy alcohol. That's what a lot of people kind of would also say. They would say, oh, if you're suffering from some type of suicidal depression, you could just stop being, a fat git, and you can go to the shop and you can just buy a bottle of alcohol and cheer up. You can just cheer up. Your suicidal depression can go away and you can just cheer up. It's kind of stupid. Becoming an alcoholic is also not going to help. Even if let's just actually say that you're suffering from suicidal depression, blah blah blah, whatever, or you're very emotionally distressed, you're very depressed. Buying alcohol, becoming an alcoholic, all that's it's such a temporary solution, because what's going to happen after your hangover is finished. Your life's going to be even worse. You're going to be worse off than you originally were, because now you're gonna be sort of an alcoholic, and you can just research about what alcoholics do when they're drunk and stuff, and the side effects of drinking alcohol to your body. It's kind of stupid. A lot of people would say that you can just cheer up and drink alcohol and that'll get rid of the suicidal depression. Nonsense, man. That is nonsense. And you can again do your own research. Go onto the internet. Look at what happens to people that are alcoholics. They get, research about the effects of alcohol on the human body. You'll realize that alcohol is not an option that you should even consider. You becoming an alcoholic to treat your suicidal depression is not a good idea. It's very temporary, because the alcohol, the hangover is going to fade and you're just going to get miserable and depressed again. But I'm actually giving you my very raw opinions. I don't believe suicide is necessarily bad. If you hate your life and you don't see any value in it, then I believe that you should have the right to kind of end it all. You know what I mean? And that's my raw opinion on this. Very edgy. I'm on the edge with this, right? I'm literally, this is like picture a medieval knight and his sword. You got this medieval knight and he's got his sword out, and the edge on his sword. That's how edgy I am. I'm being very, very edgy on this, man. I'm giving you my very raw opinions on this, not filtered or anything. Is suicide bad? If you don't see the value in living to an old age, or if you don't see the value in your life, if you hate your life, then I don't believe suicide is bad. And a lot of people use a lot of emotional arguments, but I'm giving you my very, 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 very edgy, raw opinions on this. Suicide, it might not. I don't believe it's necessarily bad. I believe that in a lot of cases, if people truly hate their lives, if they're suffering from something that they can't control, I believe that suicide might be the only option. A lot of you are going to disagree with me and stuff, but this is my very edgy, raw opinion on this. And of course, I don't want to get this video taken down. And of course, there's no right answers. And if you are actually suicidal or whatever, maybe you should consider a lot of different things, a lot of different therapies, and blah blah blah. But, if you truly don't see the value in living at all, or blah blah blah, or living to an old age or something like this, then I don't know. It's up to you, man. If you want to just kind of cut your strings and just end it all. There's no right answer, obviously, to any of this, and this is just my opinion. I believe there are a lot of different people in this world that are truly miserable and depressed, and they hate their lives, but they cannot escape from their misery. You know what I mean by that, right? And they just have to. And there are a lot of different other people keep telling these very miserable, depressed people, "Oh, sorry, you can just cheer up." And there's a lot of different things to live for. So, but these people are still depressed and miserable, and they can't seem to escape their reality. So. Is suicide bad? There's no right answer. Obviously, there was never a right answer to any of these types of questions, because it's a subjective question, and it's very controversial and very emotional and very, 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 very edgy, man. I'm talking about literally. It's so edgy. It's like a medieval knight. Like when the medieval knights had their long swords. It's that edgy. This topic, right? I'm being that edgy. I'm literally as edgy as a medieval knight's sword. That's how edgy I am, man. I'm giving you my very raw opinions on this. I'm not filtering anything out. Is suicide bad? I don't believe it necessarily is. Obviously, that's going to be very controversial. Obviously, if you're suffering from suicidal depression, you should consider therapies. Obviously, you should do that. But if you don't see the value in your life, in living at all, or living to an old age or something like this, then I believe that if you truly are miserable and stuff, and you want to end it, then you should be allowed to do that. Again, there are a lot of people in this world that are very miserable and depressed. They live absolutely atrocious lives and stuff. But a lot of, because of this sort of hippie. I mean, not hippie. What am I even saying anymore? Because of this very emotional Because I don't know, because of the fact that, you know, a lot of modern societies have become very kind of catering to the individual and stuff, and very emotional and stuff like this. We would never allow these people to exhaust themselves. You know what I mean? Even I'm not saying that would be appropriate or anything like that. I'm just saying, if someone's like truly miserable and depressed, like, I mean, and he wants to end it, I mean, why prevent him from doing that? You know what I mean? Unfortunately, this is very, very, very edgy, man. Very, very edgy, like a knight, you know, like a medieval knight, a knight's sword. That's how edgy I am, man. I'm as edgy as like a medieval knight's sword. And I know this video is gonna get a lot of hate comments. Maybe if it gets popular, or I don't know. I'm being very edgy, man. I'm giving you my raw opinions on this. But is suicide bad? Obviously, there's no right answer. Obviously, there's no right answer. But I mean, and you know, it's all subjective. But I mean, come on, if a guy or a girl or some other creature is truly depressed and miserable, and he can't seem to escape his misery and stuff, or she or it or whatever can't seem to escape his misery. I mean, is suicide bad? Is it truly bad? Would like keeping someone or something alive that hates its existence, is that bad? Would that be appropriate? Wouldn't it be better if this thing or person or whatever could just allow itself? We could just allow it to end itself. You know, man, this video might get taken down, or I don't know. It's such a very controversial topic, very edgy topic. I'm not saying suicide is appropriate, by the way. You should, if you're suicidal, and obviously you should consider a bunch of different therapies. But you know, is suicide necessarily bad? Obviously, there's no right answer. Obviously, it's subjective. But let's just say there's a hypothetical person, and he or she is very depressed and miserable. Is suicide bad in their case? I'm gonna get a lot of different opinions on this, probably, if this video even gets views. But you know, I believe that suicide can be justified in a lot of different cases. If someone truly hates their existence, it can be justified. If someone can't seem to escape from their misery, it can be justified. Obviously, you're not. A lot of you might also get at me and just probably try and bash my face, and I don't know. I'm being very, very, very edgy, giving me my raw opinions on this. Very edgy, like a medieval knight sword. That's how edgy I am, man. That's how edgy I am in this video. Being very edgy, man. But I have to be edgy, because, you know, this topic is so controversial and emotional. There's no two ways about it. I have to give you my raw opinions. And I believe that if someone truly hates their existence and all they experience is misery and depression, then they should be allowed to kind of just, you know, end it all, you know. As sad and depressing as that sounds, they should be allowed to end it all if they truly feel like their lives are miserable and depressing and it's not valuable anymore. They shouldn't just be allowed to end it all. And you're going to be, a lot of you are just going to kind of come at me and get a little bit angry, but I don't know. And this video might even get taken down because of the nature of this topic. But if someone truly hates their life and they don't experience, and all they experience is just misery, depression, and you know, misery, depression, pain, suffering, stuff like this, I believe that they should be allowed to end it all. Obviously, you know, is suicide bad? There's no right answer because it's a subjective question. But is suicide bad? I don't know. In my opinion, I don't believe suicide is necessarily bad. But you know, again, is suicide bad? Obviously, this is a very subjective question, so there's no right answer. Hopefully, this is something to think about, right, on your end. Right? Hopefully, you guys do think about this in a very serious way.